Every decision you make will have consequences. Your choices will shape how the world reacts to you and affect your relationships with those around you. One of those relationships is special. Ever heard of Johnny Silverhand, a rebel rocker boy who will be your companion throughout your adventure in Night City?
Come on, really think they give a rat's dick how you look?
Many people of Night City lament the passing of Johnny Silverhand, and although his death was over a half-century prior to 2077, the general populace, under the yoke of the ever-oppressive corporations, yearn for the rebellious nature of Johnny as a rocker boy, but arguably more so what he stood for, and his efforts to oppose the tyranny of corpos, which ultimately cost him his life. And I would also be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that Keanu Reeves has become the internet's darling long before Cyberpunk's creation.
You're breathtaking! You're breathtaking!
And risking an angry mob of Keanu fans coming after me, I suggest, due to solid evidence that I'm going to outline, and thanks to Cyberpunk's deep dive, in which we learn you can side against Johnny as an option, that taking the option to turn against and kill Johnny Silverhand is possibly a net positive during the events of Cyberpunk 2077.
Like everyone in Cyberpunk 2077, he has his own agenda. You'll decide if he'll be your ally or your enemy. And that chip in your head, the one thanks to which Johnny lives inside your mind, well, that's a story for another time.
I think it's okay to say that there was a moment of maybe death. But I'm still around.
To understand why you should at least consider destroying Silverhand before he can get out of hand and is stuck inside his chip, we must first go back to the beginning. For a brief synopsis of Johnny's past, which will inform you whether to side with or turn on Johnny, the cliff notes which are as follows. Johnny was in the military in 1990, and after witnessing a massacre, he decided to desert the army and move back to Night City. Then Johnny became extremely anti-establishment, helping to spearhead the cyberpunk movement as a rocker boy, spreading his message through song with his band Samurai. Johnny then met and fell in love with Alt Cunningham, a legendary netrunner. During this time, Alt created a program that was said to create digital immortality. Arasaka then tries to weaponize this program and kidnaps Alt. However, she is killed before Johnny could save her, or so it would seem. Her mind escaped to the net thanks to the program which she created. Johnny then learns this, goes back to Arasaka HQ to retrieve Alt's digital ghost, but is met by Borg Atom Smasher, who cuts him down where he stands. Militech then drops a nuke on Arasaka HQ, supposedly killing Johnny, and Night City is thrown into disarray. Fast forward to 2077, it's easy to see how Johnny is living inside a piece of hardware as a digital ghost thanks to his girlfriend, Alt Cunningham. Now, the mercenary V and his mate Jackie Wells are sent by Dexter Shawn to retrieve the chip, said to hold the key to immortality, which is a part of the official plot of 2077, but things obviously go sideways. However, when V stores the chip in his neck, Johnny is then uploaded to his mind.
And you, who are you?
So the question then is, why not side with Johnny? Arasaka's evil, right? And Johnny just wants to help his girlfriend. But why would those motives to help Johnny's girlfriend and to disrupt the status quo potentially cause more harm than good? Well, as you can imagine, digital Johnny's consciousness is one and the same as Johnny with his body, his wants, goals, and desires. And the last thing Johnny wanted and basically died for is Alt Cunningham. And we have proof of this. We know Alt is in the net, and in a blink and you'll miss it moment, we see this during the deep dive. Netrunners going deep in the net either need special cyber tech suits for cooling, or a more crude yet effective way to stop your body from frying is a bath of ice, which V is seen entering working with the Voodoo Boys. And we also see Johnny talking about getting Alt during that frame. So we're going to retrieve Alt Cunningham and reunite lovers, which is great, right? Well, maybe not.
We saw a bit of a teaser in regards to a little-known character known as Alt Cunningham, who those who play the 2020 tabletop will know was Silverhand's girlfriend and a legendary hacker. Yes. So there's going to be a lot of interplay there we can expect.
There might be.
Okay, yeah, of course, you have to be a little vague about that.
Exactly.
See, the Voodoo Boys are a special gang, less about crime and more about the deep recesses of the net, especially the area which is forbidden beyond the Black Wall. The Black Wall itself is a construct. Basically, it's a firewall for a huge virus or cluster of viruses that was unleashed on the entire internet during the early 21st century. Now, Netwatch, a special group, realized that this self-aware AI could destroy everything, so they walled it off. Also, not to mention anyone who has gone beyond the Black Wall since then has never returned. So here's reason one. You are, as V, putting your personal safety at a huge risk to try and find a ghost of Johnny's girlfriend who may or may not exist beyond the Black Wall. Two, we don't know what the AI have evolved into, especially Alt. Imagine super smart AI merging, becoming smarter, or perhaps turning against life itself, waiting to be freed. Now, if you don't believe me, listen to the clip of a developer from CD Projekt Red describing what he believes is beyond the Black Wall.
So it's this mysterious place, like I like to think about it as this Lovecraftian kind of thing, like this different dimension where the rogue AIs do their own thing.
Cyberpunk Lovecraftian, interesting.
Exactly, and they develop themselves unchecked, basically, because the Netwatch doesn't actually control what happens there.
A Cthulhu-level, world-ending AI may be unleashed because Johnny wants one last cyber booty call. Now that's a big if, and honestly, a risk to all of humanity. Like any great RPG, such as Fallout New Vegas, siding with a faction always has consequences. Although superficially, Mr. House seemed like a self-aggrandizing dick, he can be argued as a net positive for the strip. Even Kaiser had his good qualities, and I know it's not New Vegas, but a great RPG always has pros and cons depending on your decision, and sometimes when you think you're doing good, it has an underlying price. And I don't believe siding with Johnny would be any exception. The third point, which has been explored in real life, is due to the 2045 project. Russian billionaire Dmitry Itskov, a 31-year-old media mogul, is actually trying to create avatars for human consciousness. Basically, by 2045, he wants to have our consciousness uploaded to a robotic body. Psychologists speculate that without a human body, you won't experience emotion the same way that normal people do. And beings that don't experience emotions are basically psychopaths. And we may actually be looked at as a lower rung of evolution. It's just like some type of Skynet, except it's humans. You don't know exactly the mind of Johnny if put into a new, say, Borg body, or Alt if they want to create a whole new race of people, if they're trying to transcend themselves. It's honestly dependent on how Cyberpunk tackles this issue, but other media, whether Ghost in the Shell or Skynet in the Terminator, have tackled this question, and it usually doesn't end well for humanity. The final reason why you should side against Johnny is selfish, but also pragmatic. You have a chip that could grant you immortality in your possession, or you have to retrieve it back from Dex. Now, who is to say that you wouldn't keep it for yourself, becoming the most powerful person in Night City? Now, sure, there's heat, but if you allied yourself with another faction instead of Johnny, you may be promised money, everlasting life, a great big Borg body like Atom Smasher to cruise around in, and one of those Aerodynes that the developers said no pleb in the game can afford. So the real question becomes, would you risk the fate of the world for love? Maybe it's better to not side with the corrupt people in power or those who seek to change it into something else. Perhaps you want to do a Snake Plissken-esque maneuver from Escape from LA and pull the plug on the entire system instead. Whether you side with Johnny or betray him, it's your story. But word to the wise, question everyone's motives heavily and be ready for carnage in the world of Cyberpunk 2077. But what will you choose? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to get your take. As always, make sure to like, subscribe to stay up to date with the latest Cyberpunk videos, as I will be covering it top to bottom. And as always, I'll see you next time, traveler.
In 2077, what makes someone a criminal? Getting caught. In In Night City, you can become anyone, anything, if your body can pay the price. So seize the day, then set it on fire.